they were incentivizing their software developers to use more and more AI. Hey, it's Marek. If you've recently been hitting usage quotas on your AI tools, you're not alone. There's a lot of us who are seeing those limits popping up all over the place at the moment. Seems like the usage of AI tools have increased so much that the providers, whether it's Anthropic, OpenAI, or any other providers, are struggling to keep up with demand. In today's or this week's podcast, I'm exploring why this is happening and what you could do about it in your business. I call it Token Olympics, and it all has started in October last year, October 2025, when OpenAI was running their developer day. And as part of the activities during the day, they started to hand out awards for some of the companies that work with OpenAI, for some of the developers. Nice sort of translucent resin blocks with an OpenAI logo in the middle of it. And these were awards for the use of tokens while using OpenAI's APIs for 10 billion, 100 billion, and 1 trillion tokens. So the more you would use, so basically the more you would use the services OpenAI, the more prestigious award you would get, which is absolutely insane. And I talked about it briefly in one of the previous podcasts, because it's like rewarding drivers for the amount of fuel they use while going from point A to point B. Yet, if you're OpenAI and if you're selling your services through an API and if you're charging your users by the token, which is exactly what's happening there, it sort of makes sense. So yes, you'll give awards to people who give you the most money. There's more examples like that starting to pop up. Recently, Uber has complained that they're struggling here as well. The CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Uber, Praveen Nepali Naga, in an interview with The Information, has shared that they have already blown through their AI budget for the year. It's 2026, it's April, so they're 4 months into the year, and they've already blown through that particular line item in their R&D budget. Uber's overall R&D budget for a year is in the range of about $3.4 billion last year, so we should be expecting it to be similar in 2026. I don't know how much exactly they assigned to AI expenses, but they don't have the money anymore. They've spent it. Why did they spend it? Because the usage of AI models has been growing so much, especially among developers. And here's the point of the podcast. Uber had an internal leaderboard ranking engineers by AI usage. They were incentivizing their software developers to use more and more AI. Again, it doesn't sound like something that's inherently bad. You want to encourage your people to use artificial intelligence at work. But if you're incentivizing or if you're promoting the actual usage, it again is the equivalent of promoting the burning of fuel while you're driving. That's not the point. You should be incentivizing people for having great results and maybe even for efficiency in their use of artificial intelligence, not throwing billions or even trillions of tokens on their tasks. GitHub and Claude have been struggling as well. GitHub, owned by Microsoft, has recently paused new signups for all paid individual GitHub Copilot plans. So if you're a software developer, you could go to that website, github.com, and there will be a service, a subscription that's available to you for GitHub Copilot. When you pay for it, you get access to coding agents that will help you writing your code. Turns out that GitHub has also overestimated how much people, or underestimated how much people would be using it. And the Copilot Vice President, Joe Binder, wrote on a webpage that explained what they were doing. They said it is now common for a handful of requests, individual requests to their service, to incur costs that exceed the plan price. So we're not talking about individual users using more than they pay for. We're talking about individual requests that go to a system that exceed the entire monthly plan price. So GitHub has paused all of those new signups until they figure out what to do about it. Turns out they designed a subscription model for a usage that was not what was actually happening. And just one day later, on 21st of April, there were many reports around the world where users were seeing Anthropic, the creators of Claude and Claude Code specifically here, removing the mention of Claude Code as an inclusion in their Pro plan. So again, they were experimenting and trying to understand if users would still sign up for their Claude Pro plan if there was no inclusion of coding agents. Head of growth for Anthropic, Amol Avasare, has said max. So that was about Claude Code Pro and Claude Code Max. Max was designed for heavy chat usage. That's it. Agents that run for hours weren't a thing. And the thing with Claude Code is that you could have agents that run for hours. I'm sitting in front of my screen at the moment as I'm recording it, and there's one window that I'm running where Claude Code is currently working on an improvement to a piece of software that I've been working on. And it's been brewing, as Claude Code refers to it, for more than 20 minutes at the moment. So there are definitely those systems that, take a lot of time to process, and that's costly. That uses a lot of tokens. So both GitHub and Claude, as well as Uber, all those organizations are struggling with the fact that there's more usage of those AI tools than they were predicting. And for organizations like Uber, this means they're blowing through their budgets more and more quickly. For organizations like GitHub or Anthropic, this means that what they're offering, what they're selling is not sustainable. They have higher costs than revenue that comes in to cover those costs. And while I was writing the original Substack post, that's a basis for this podcast recording, I referred to Adam Grant, the fantastic academic, the fantastic writer, has written so many great books. He wrote for New York Times about the fact that you don't get A for effort. He was referring to a story of a student that came into his office, Wharton School where he works, and said, "Hey, look, I know the results, what I wrote in the exam was not great, but I have put so much work into it. Can I get a higher grade?" And so Adam Grant wrote an entire article explaining that, this is not how it works. You don't get an A for effort. You get an A for results. Now, it seems like in the AI world, we're still handing out medals for effort. Remember those trophies that OpenAI was giving out during their dev day. AI models have gotten cheaper in inference. Inference is that process of querying a model rather than the process of training a model. So they have gotten way cheaper, way cheaper, but also the usage of those models has gone so fast. There's definitely much more usage of those models right now as opposed to before. So even the drops in the price of inference do not really make up for that change. And so everyone's paying more, whether you're a vendor or whether you're a user. Now, one easy approach would be to try to throttle the use of AI in your organization, to try to switch it off. It's not as easy. In the Substack post, I bring up 3 examples of research which show very, very clearly that the moment people get used to an AI tool and then you take that AI tool away from them, those people become worse at their tasks. So one example was endoscopies, medical professionals, 19 of them who used AI for 3 months to help them with a particular medical procedure. When the AI was removed from their workflow, their accuracy dropped by about 21%. So they just became worse as medical professionals. There was another example that I'm writing about where 1,000 high school students were asked to either use an unrestricted AI system, a system that would help them with all of their work, or use a restricted or guardrailed AI system where they could ask that AI system for maybe some hints on what they should be doing, but the AI system wouldn't give them answers. And then there was a third group of students, a control group of students who were not using AI. Turns out that those students who were using the unrestricted AI students, they became much better at a lot of their school activities, 48% up. But during exams, when AI was not available to them, the quality of the work dropped by 17%. The group that was using a guardrailed AI system, by the way, and that's something that I've been sharing with my kids ever since, those showed no difference during exams to the group that was not using AI at all. Their quality of their work didn't drop, while outside of the exams, they were still better, right? So that approach where you're getting an AI system to give you hints rather than answers seems to be working very well for high school students. That's not the point of this podcast, though. The point of this podcast is the first group. The moment you give somebody an AI tool and then you take it away, they get worse. So yeah, you might be paying more for AI at the moment. You might be blowing through your annual budgets, but the solution is not to just cut it. You cannot do it anymore. So there's a number of things that I wrote in the newsletter that I believe everyone should be thinking about, asking their boards, asking their managers about. When it comes to discussions with the boards, very, very briefly, because it's always a short podcast, ask your board members have your board members discuss and then ask the CEO and other senior organizations, what's our AI spend trajectory? What happens if API prices rise in the next 18 months? And I'm expecting some of those prices will go up. What happens in our organization? Number two, who's responsible for AI cost governance? Do we have a person who has that as part of their tasks and not just a line item that an unspecified team is dealing with? Number three, what percentage of our AI applications need those super advanced AI frontier models? Maybe we can use cheaper ones. Maybe we don't have to pay as much as we are at the moment, and we still maintain the quality of our work. Number four, where is our consumption ceiling, right? So that's the one which allows us to make sure we don't blow through the budget too quickly. Who sees that ceiling in real time? Some of the activities could be going through the budget very, very quickly. So if you don't have a real-time overview, that's problematic. And also, the board should ask, what are we incentivizing? If we're incentivizing just the use of AI, if we're celebrating how much AI our people are using, that's not the right measure. For managers, think about model routing. So IT departments, can you figure out how complex a particular task is and route it to the most appropriate model rather than the most expensive one? Turn off extended thinking by default. I have spoken about performative reasoning in the past. Only use extended thinking where it really is required, and I've shared in the past ways of testing whether it is required or not. Use what is called semantic caching. A semantic caching is basically trying to understand whether a query that goes to a large language model is similar or identical to a query that went to a model before, and basically just reuse the responses that were created before rather than having a large language model respond to the same query on and on again. Use smaller models locally. There's plenty of them, more and more, practically every day being released. And ensure that whenever you're contracting or you're signing a contract with a provider of an AI solution, make sure that you're able to walk away from that contract the moment it doesn't work for you anymore. Remember, fuel consumption was never the goal. You should not be celebrating just the quantity of the use of AI in your organization. Focus on the quality. That's it from me for this week. I'm dropping another tune by my son Philip into this podcast. It's called ACAD, apparently just random letters as he told me, but it's a good one. Stay curious.